On the morning of December 4th, in my hometown, Manhattan, New York, a United Healthcare CEO was fatally shot in front of the hotel where his company was holding its annual investors meeting. The shooter escaped the New York Police Department for days. By the way, the New York Police Department has a budget of about $6 billion annually and is armed like a militia. And yet, the suspect, Luigi Mangione, escaped to Pennsylvania. Check out this clip.
A 5-day nationwide manhunt coming to an end 300 miles from New York City. Police in Altoona, Pennsylvania, arresting 26-year-old Luigi Mangione in connection with the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
The suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee.
The McDonald's employee recognizing Mangione from one of these photos sent out by the NYPD after Wednesday morning's attack in Midtown Manhattan. Altoona police questioning Mangione, finding a trove of evidence, including a fake New Jersey ID and a gun.
Officers recovered a firearm on his person, as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder.
Police say they also found a mask and clothes matching what the shooter was wearing on Wednesday, and police found a 3-page handwritten note that speaks to a possible motive.
What we know about Mangione is that he comes from a family, a very wealthy family, and led a life of privilege. His grandfather was a self-made multimillionaire. Luigi Mangione was a valedictorian in his private school, and he graduated from the University of Pennsylvania. Through public records, social media posts, and interviews, we know that Mangione cut off contact with family and friends earlier this year. He also suffered a serious back condition, which caused him excruciating pain, leading to brain fog. He told a former roommate in where he lived in Hawaii, R.J. Martin, that Mangione confided about his lack of personal relationships, telling the New York Times that it wasn't possible for Mangione to date or have physical intimacy because of his back condition. In messages, Mangione expressed distrust in the healthcare system. What isn't clear is why he took such an extreme step. I just want to pause for a second and say that this is not about this individual and this individual crime, although obviously we want to know what the motives were, what led to this, et cetera, et cetera. This is more about the way the right politicizes these kinds of incidents and the cultural moment in which we live, in which the murder of a CEO of a healthcare company was met in some quarters with condemnation, but in many others with support. So what's clear is that the right is willing to use the murder of a wealthy white man as an opportunity to make this political so that they can beat up on the left. Check out this clip from Laura Ingraham.
Mangione isn't a hero. He's a zero. And as a New York jury found, Daniel Penny isn't a killer. He's a good Samaritan. And that's the
Okay, that's an interesting way of putting it. I think you could argue that what Ingram's saying is that Luigi Mangione killed the wrong type of person. So we cannot have this conversation without acknowledging the stark differences between Brian Thompson and Jordan Neely, who was killed in a subway incident by Daniel Penny. Penny is a 26-year-old Marine veteran who recently was found not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in the chokehold death of Neely back in 2023 on a New York City subway. What we know about Jordan Neely is that he was unarmed. He suffered from serious mental illness, and he wasn't particularly bothering anybody on the subway until Daniel Penny took matters into his own hands. Just for anybody coming to New York City, if you can handle the fact that there will be homeless and mentally ill people in your subway car, walk. Anyway, I think it's pretty clear that one factor in the verdict was that Jordan Neely, in addition to being an at-risk individual, was also Black. This is also being used as an excuse to monitor those around you. Check out this clip.
If you are an employer, if you are a boss, if you are a teacher, if you are in charge of admissions anywhere in this country right now, check your employees, check your children, check the social media of anyone over which you have control of their employment, their education, their influence, to see if that they have participated in the online hailing of an alleged murderer, because that is sickening. And the whole point is, don't give it oxygen. Right? You know, if you want to make jokes on your private time, fine, do whatever. I don't need to see people's private texts on a late night show proclaiming to be funny. But what I do need to see is a celebration of life, of a man whose life was taken from us by a horrible murderer, no matter who he was. And I need to see there be some accountability in the media for those voices instead of providing oxygen. I need to see talk show hosts like Rachel Maddow take responsibility for their words. And instead of relaying everything back to President Trump, why don't you relay it squarely where it belongs, which is the shoulders of that murderer? He is not to be celebrated. He is to be blamed. And the jury is to be tasked with bringing the murder of Brian Thompson to justice only.
Wow, I didn't realize that this was entirely Rachel Maddow's responsibility, but there you go. Also, the hypocrisy. This is the right is and the Republican Party are those who championed Kyle Rittenhouse, who actually murdered people and got away with it because of egregious gun laws in the state in which he committed those murders. But we're missing the point here. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Let us not heroize anybody who murders somebody in cold blood, regardless of who that person is. Okay. But there's something else going on here. This was not a random rich white man. This was a man who's a CEO of a healthcare company. I'm not saying that means he should have had a target on his back. I am not saying that he should have been a victim of a violent crime. What I am saying is that clearly this touched a nerve with the American people who live in a society in which healthcare is not a right. Healthcare is something that has been made profitable. So when you put profit above people's health, no matter how ill they may be, that creates some very, very strong feelings. So the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities released a report that Republican health coverage proposals would increase the number of uninsured and raise people's costs. When they say, see, the left wants to, your healthcare officials dead, which is not at all true. It's that type of demonization that makes it easier to push through legislation such as that. I want you to look at this clip of blaming it all on Hillary Clinton.
The most important point I want to make is, how dare the Democrats talk about this being anger towards a healthcare system that they broke? I mean, United Healthcare, HMOs, you remember Hillary Clinton in the 1990s with HMOs, where no doctors get paid anymore, where insurance runs the world? That's the Democrats' fault that did that. And now they're saying, oh, this anger is justified. Murderous anger is never justified.
Well said. If only you could impart that wisdom to some in the media.
Yeah, like you. But anyway, it was a very long time ago, so I'm sure a lot of people don't remember. What Hillary Clinton was trying to do while Bill Clinton was in office was create universal health care. Can you imagine where we would be now if we had had universal health care by the end of the 1990s? But no, she was mocked mercilessly for wanting that. And the system of privatized healthcare has gained ground and has become entrenched to the point where Republicans continually are trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. So they also seem to be on the right using Mangioni's actions to place blame at the feet of the American people. Look at this.
And I think that it's disgusting how some people say, oh, this is because of the insurance industry. You check yourself on that, especially if you're on the left. And how do you think we ended up in a place where there is less competition and fewer good products in the insurance industry? It is messed up. I agree. But that's not because people weren't suggesting a better way. If you think socialized medicine is a better way, knock yourself out. Yeah. Go to Canada and try to find a specialist. Go to Scotland. Go to England. It is a disaster.
Sure. Well, it is true that America is the best place to find a specialist. It also is the worst place to be sick. Just ask Canada and Scotland and all other developed countries that have evolved enough to provide universal health care for all of its citizens. Look, healthcare and murder share one thing. They should not be partisan issues. We should all agree that murder is bad. We should all agree that healthcare is a right, not a privilege. As Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, said, murder is murder no matter the party line. Watch this clip.
Violence can never be used to address political differences or to address a substantive difference or to try and prove some ideological point. That is not what we do in a civilized society. That was true in Butler. It was true in New York City. And it's true anywhere. That is not how you make progress in this country. The person, the suspect here, who shot at that CEO and killed that CEO is a coward, not a hero. And we need to make sure that in this country, we get back to having a civil discourse about our differences. And that is an important lesson coming out of Pennsylvania. And it is one that I think the rest of the nation needs to hear as well.
Yes, violence is not the way. That is not how we make broad social change in this country. However, we are hampered by the fact that the right lies constantly, egregiously to the people listening to them. We're in this situation in part because the right has convinced Republican voters that universal health care is somehow bad for them. That risking bankruptcy if somebody in your family gets seriously ill is somehow a badge of honor. That's the problem. Because by not knowing the truth, by not having the facts at their disposal, a significant minority of this country continues to vote for people who make it harder and harder for you and your family to get the health care you need, while healthcare companies get richer and richer and richer at our expense.